Officials at TikTok will be in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. They're appealing a U.S. move, a law that would force the app to sell off its U.S. operations or face a ban.
Warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok has something to do with that.
Now, the law with the ban was put in place by Joe Biden, but that, of course, is U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, who is asking for a temporary freeze on this ban if it does go into effect. So what does all of this mean for the future of the TikTok platform and its estimated 170 million users in the U.S.? Well, for more this morning, we are joined by Issy Lepowski, contributing writer at Fast Company. Good morning.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So when most people really think of TikTok, they think of mindlessly scrolling their phone for hours, looking at funny videos. Why does the U.S. government view the app as a threat to national security?
Well, it's because of TikTok's ties to China, right? TikTok is owned by this larger company, ByteDance, which is based in China. It's spun out of a company that was founded in China. And for a long time, the U.S. government, and that includes President Trump, by the way, has said that, this poses too great a risk, a data privacy risk, a risk of China spreading propaganda through TikTok, a risk of it manipulating users in various ways or blackmailing them through the use of their data. And it hasn't been too specific about what those risks are or, what sorts of violations it has actually detected. But it's saying the risks are so high that we need to act now, given how widespread this app is in the United States.
And that's part of the reason that we're here today is ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, says, hey, this is an infringement on free speech. The government has said, look, they have concerns about not only espionage and blackmail, like you mentioned, but they're also worried about the platform inciting violence and spreading misinformation. But ByteDance, of course, is refuting those claims. They say free speech is being infringed upon. What does the company and the government have to prove today?
So the company is trying to prove that the government has to abide by the First Amendment in this case, right? In the United States, we have the First Amendment. That First Amendment protects misinformation. It protects all kinds of really odious, ugly speech. And so the company is saying that under the First Amendment, that has to fly. The government has to prove that, in fact, it is not making a case about speech. The government is saying we are making a case about foreign adversary control of a very widespread application in the United States. And so they're trying to sidestep the whole question of speech and say, no, this is just really a question about corporate ownership. We are happy to allow TikTok to remain in the United States, provided that ByteDance sells it to a company that we're comfortable with.
Here in Canada in November, our federal government ordered to end TikTok's Canadian operations, but we didn't do a ban like we're seeing in the U.S. The app, for their part, has threatened to shut down on January 19th unless this ban is called off. So what could the ruling mean for the future of TikTok and its users?
The ruling obviously has widespread impacts for TikTok. It could mean that TikTok shuts down. There are tons of companies and creators that rely on TikTok, not just for fun, like you were talking about, but for their livelihoods, really. So it would create a massive reorientation of how those companies work. But there are larger implications for speech in the United States, right? A lot of First Amendment scholars and experts are really against this ban because they say that this would create, a slippery slope where the government can kind of waive this justification of national security to shut down all types of speech and speech platforms, whether that is a digital platform or a newspaper or what have you, that they don't like.
Government, as you mentioned, plays a big role in this story. Earlier, we played a clip from President-elect Donald Trump speaking about the app. This was brought in by President Joe Biden. Trump has said he's going to put a pause on all of this. Where does this change in government in the United States come into this case?
It's really interesting because it was when he was former President Donald Trump during his first term, he is the first one who tried to require ByteDance to sell this off. He has had a change of heart since then, as he said in that clip. possibly due to his popularity among the youth in the most recent election, possibly due to donors with ties to TikTok. But regardless, he has asked to sort of freeze this decision. The Supreme Court has not appeared willing to do that. Under the law, Trump will have the ability to postpone the ban from going into effect, but only if he can show that there is some kind of progress on this divestment deal, and that seems really unlikely. So it does appear that his hands are tied.
This is a really basic question, but I think it's important. If the ruling goes against TikTok, so they do have to live up to this law and either sell off their assets or shut down, what does that mean for people in America who want to scroll on TikTok?
Well, it will mean that if the ban does go into effect, if ByteDance refuses to divest, then poof, TikTok will disappear from app stores, and internet service providers, internet hosting providers will no longer be able to provide any services to it. So that it's not a direct ban on TikTok. Obviously, the government can't go into everybody's phone and delete it, but it can force the hosting providers not to work with TikTok, which in effect makes it impossible to operate it.
Great to have you on the show today. Explain all of this to us. Izzy Lepowski, contributing writer at Fast Company. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.